Lights,
Cool.
camera, action.
Alrighty, what's up, guys? So welcome back to another episode where Noah and I get together, have amazing chats about music and life, and do another episode where we basically get to document our journey through the world of music, engineering, producing, and all of the wonderful experiences we get to go through with our artists. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the wonderful things that we get to hopefully share with y'all and just, share some stories and have a good time. So we did make a few notes, I guess, over the past couple weeks while we've been away from doing our episodes. And there is one thing or one topic I want to address right out the gate. And it has to deal with expectations when getting to the studio, before getting to the studio, kind of the process of what goes down when you're at a studio, what the artist is entitled to, and so on and so forth. So I think there's a lot of misconception when it comes to what actually happens when you're in a studio and how you should prepare and all those wonderful things. And so for all the artists that have either never been to a studio or that are thinking of going to a studio to get their stuff professionally recorded, there's a few things you got to keep in mind. So first things first, when you're going to a regular studio where there's going to be an engineer that's going to record your vocals, you have to keep in mind that you are going there primarily just to record your vocals for the track. Because I've seen there's been situations where there have been artists that think that the engineer can also produce and that you guys are going to be making an instrumental or beat on the spot. And yes, there are some places that do that, but you have to be very clear with the person you're working with if that's what you're going to be doing. Because most of the time, you should already have your instrumental and your beat prepared. That's usually how it works. So when you're creating your song, always keep in mind that, okay, I want to make sure I have my instrumental prepared. I want to make sure my lyrics are ready. I want to make sure that I'm ready. So that when you get to the studio, you're ready just to knock it out and just have a good time and record some music. And so in terms of the actual session itself, I guess that would be just a way to prep for the session in terms of what you need to get in line before you get to the studio to make sure that the process goes super smooth and that there's no confusion. And of course, if you guys have any questions in terms of, what may go down, you can always talk to the engineer that you're about to work with, right? Assuming that they're approachable and assuming you have contact with them and whatnot. But if you don't, this is my way of at least prepping you guys so you guys can at least be somewhat ready. So that's the first thing. When you get to the studio, there's some studios that operate a little differently. So there's some studios that when you pull up and you enter the room, that's when the time starts and your time starts ticking, right? Whether it be an hourly session or whatever you structure with your engineer. Or there's people like myself where we like to give a little bit of leeway. At least for all my artists that come through, I don't mind chopping it up for 30 minutes to an hour, just seeing what's good, catching a vibe, getting to know you as an artist, what your goals are, and just making that connection and then jumping into the session. Because at least for me, I usually like to start the countdown once I click record and we start going. And from that point on, your time is running until we're done the session. So if you just had to take a break at any time in the session, that's on the clock. So that's going to be, during, your session time. So that's another thing. So also make sure that, you're not wasting your time when you get to the studio, because some engineers might start your time right away. Some may wait. So also make sure you clear that up so you're on the same page.
You are paying for that time, so definitely be aware of how much time is being spent.
Correct, exactly. And so be very cognizant of kind of where you're at. And that's why I always said, you want to make sure you prep before you get to the session, because once you get to the studio and you start recording, that's where, you can just get straight to work, right? So then, because you were already been prepared. Another thing too, when it comes to once you're done the session, there are two things as an artist that you are entitled to after the session is done. One, you are entitled to your rough mix that is basically what you record in the session. So the engineer will usually bounce out the song for you, and that is yours to keep. And you can do whatever you want with it. So you're entitled to that. And you are also entitled to your dry stems. What does that mean? What are stems? Stems is basically each and every individual component of the song. So it's everything that makes up the song. So it's all your vocal tracks, the beat, everything that comprises what the session is, right? So you are entitled to your dry stems. And what are dry stems versus wet stems? Dry stems just means you are entitled to the raw vocals of what you recorded, not the wet stems, which means all of the effects are still on there. Any of the effects or plugins that we have within our session is part of our sauce and our template, and you are not entitled to that at all. So don't try and ask an engineer for that, because most people won't send it to you, or they'll just look at you weird, and you're going to run into this problem of thinking that you were allowed to get the wet stems when you're not. So you're allowed your dry stems and your final bounced version of the song. And another thing too, another thing to expect when you get to the studio is that when you do your song within a session, when you are done and you get that final bounced version, that is just a rough mix. That is not the full mix and the master. So if you ever hear any engineer say, hey, you can do your 3-hour session, plus you're going to be getting a fully mixed and mastered song by the end of it, that's just bullcrap. That's all lies. Like, nobody can ever fully mix and master a song within that same session. It's going to be a nice rough mix, and it's still going to sound good, but don't let them mislead you into thinking you're getting a full mix and master when you're done, and them using that as like a sales tactic to try and get you to come through for a session. It's not. That's just a rough mix. So if you want a high quality mix and master done, either ask them if they can mix it, or go to another engineer that you trust to get that done. So that's another thing too. So you're getting your rough mix and whatnot. So those are a few things I want to address in terms of actually prepping yourself for the session and knowing what you're entitled to and what to expect. Because there's been several times where, artists, think something is included when it's not, and then they feel misled, and then that just causes, bad blood between them and the engineer.
Also, be in communication on what you're bringing to the session too. If you're doing a guitar vocal, like if it's anything other than vocals, instrumental, something like that, be in communication with your producer or engineer what you're bringing with you physically, whether it's an instrument or something like that, just so we know in our studio like how much room we're physically going to have, because sometimes our studios, we got to work with the physicality of the room and different things, but also we need to know how much time we're going to have. Like if you're bringing a bunch of extra stuff and we didn't know about it, we need to know what's going to be involved in that specific session. So it's really important, if there's anything extracurricular coming into the session, let us know, at least if it's a little bit before, like at least we know beforehand, so give us some time to know like what exactly you're bringing, so we know what's going into the session.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just part of the prep process, right? So when you at least let us know, then we can kind of figure out how to maneuver around things. If you're bringing, let's say, an acoustic guitar, we got to make sure we have another mic that we can mic up the guitar and your vocals. And so, yeah, it's just kind of courtesy just to let us know what you're bringing, what you're doing, what you're working on. Oh, and also, if you want to do your engineer the favor, if you have your instrumental or beat ready before you get to the session, send it to them. Like if you've built that relationship with them, send them the link to the song, send them the actual song itself, so then they can prep your session before you pull up. And then that way, once you come through, you guys can just focus on establishing that connection and then getting straight to work, as opposed to the engineer taking time out of the session to download the beat and import it. And yeah, of course, that will inevitably happen for a lot of other sessions. But if you can be the one that's prepared, and you can give them the beat, and when you give them the beat, also give them the BPM of the beat and the key of the beat, because that way they can, set everything correct within the session. And the last thing that I want to say in terms of what you're entitled to or what you're not entitled to is we're not allowed to give you, well, not that we're not allowed to, but most engineers won't give you the wet stems, and we also will not send out sessions. Okay. So if we have an actual Pro Tools sessions, we're not going to send that out either, because that has all of our plugins, all of our sauce, and that's our template that we curated that we don't want to send out to people. Okay. So don't try and ask for a session. Don't try and ask for wet stems, because 9 times out of 10, no one's going to give that to you. And like I said, I'm only telling you guys this just so you don't run into that problem of, oh, well, I thought you can just send the session over to my engineer and he can mix it. No, that's not how it works.
That's not
you can
consistent.
you can get the raw stems, you can get the dry stems, and then they can import it and just mix it how they want, but you're not getting the wet stems or the session. So that's just one quick thing I want to just address real quick when it comes to what to expect before you pull up and what happens during and after the session is done. Oh, another thing too. Sorry, I just thought about this. So obviously that's during the session phase, right? In terms of, recording and being prepped. If this is a song you're going to mix and master, going to want to have mixed and mastered, you got to be upfront about that with your engineer. So obviously once you're done, let them know if that's a song you think you're going to want mixed. And if it is, you can just settle it right then and there. And then most of the time, if they're a good engineer, they're going to keep you updated with, revisions and drafts. So once you leave the studio with your rough mix, you should probably expect that engineer to get back to you within a few days in terms of your mix, unless otherwise stated. So this needs to be an open communication between you and your engineer to see where the song is at, what to expect for the mix, and when to expect updates. For a person like myself, I like to update the artist at least once a day, once every other day, in terms of mix revisions and being updated with that. So you as an artist, don't just sit back and relax. And if you don't hear back from your engineer in 7 days, thinking that everything's okay, be proactive. And if you can find an engineer that cares and is willing to work with you on that, you know, in terms of the mixes and making sure that you're not wondering what's happening with your song, then you're pretty much set. So build that relationship and just know that there needs to be regular communication involved when it comes to the mixing process and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say for that. No, I don't know if you have anything you want to jump in there about.
No, I'm all good. I agree. It's good stuff.
Yeah. All right, what else do we have on here?
Adding variation to your songs, I think, was really important too.
You want to jump in there?
Yeah. So, I think when it comes to, or we could go the route of talking about an actual album or just variation between singles.
Sure. Yeah, I'm down for anything. Yeah, just give me your thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking about going with an album, that's a different conversation because obviously you want some variation on your album, but depends on if you have a theme or not. But I always like to see my artists and clients and people that I work with when it comes to music, I always like to see a little bit of a variation because it kind of shows, their skill set and their variety. And some people like to stick to just a specific genre, but I just want to take a moment and encourage my artists and my clients, people that I work with, and yours too, Ben. Go ahead and like branch out a little bit. Like sometimes it's okay to listen to other like genres, like other kinds of music, and take inspiration from that. You know, don't be afraid to like step out and try something new, because I know me and Ben, we're always like trying new things in the mix and like adding new components and things that will always make it better, right? And improve the mix or improve the production process. So just want to encourage y'all to do that too. It's okay to try new things. You don't have to just stick to your corner. Like, yes, always stick to your guns if you're unsure of something, like go with your gut, but you know, you're never going to be able to explore anything if you're just staying in one corner of the ring, so to speak, you know? So, it's a new year, new things. We're always trying new things around here. So, and we encourage that. I know I personally like to encourage that. Like, I won't talk down about it or, oh no, I don't know about that, we should stick to this. Like, no, let's try that. Let's see what that's about. You know, let's at least try it and see. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But, move around, you know, kind of see what works and what doesn't. That's the only way we're going to ever explore anything or try new things, is if we actually do it, you know? But that's also part of the communication process too. Like, none of that's going to be happening during the session. Like, we're going to prepare for that, try something new, you know? There's room for that, but yeah, man, just want to encourage y'all to definitely step out this year and try some new things, new genres, or just do different things vocally. If you guys have been wanting to try new things, this is the time to do it. You know, it's the time to step out and try new things.
Yeah, don't hold back, because you never know what's going to stick, right? Like when you start trying new things within your mix or within your vocals,
any part
or
of
the way
process.
You perform something, you never know what you're going to get. It's kind of like throwing everything to the wall and see what sticks, right? Because you might discover something new, a new sound, a new way of doing it, something that's catchy, something that is just fresh that people may have not heard before, or just really something that your audience may have not heard before. And going back to the whole branching off thing, I think it's important to do this, and I encourage all my artists to, you know, step out your normal genre, right? Like if you're used to doing R&B, try hip hop, try pop, try country. Give the people a little taste of what you can do, because I always think that like if you can try a few different genres, then people will get a full scope of what you can do and the variety you bring to the table. Sure, if you want to, you know, stick to one genre, that's cool too. But if you're going to do that, add some variety within your songs within that genre. So don't just keep the same flow, same cadence, same effects, like switch it up. Like, continually try to innovate and be creative with having your songs sound different between one another within that genre. But if you want to give people a taste of what else you can do it. Because at the end of the day, it's only more tools in your arsenal, so then people can see what you're made of, right? And then, you know, other people want you to feature on their tracks, and you might have people kind of fall in love with the different vibes that you got, and then you can combine the different genres and vibes. And so, yeah, it definitely does not hurt to want to just try something new, because you can't just be stale and be stagnant. You gotta always be innovating and doing something new, so you can get people just a new perspective of what you can bring to the table, you know? And so,
And if
yeah,
you
well,
want to stick with a certain genre too, that's always great because there are artists that are just known for their thing, whether it's a genre that's already in place that is really popular, or if they sometimes people will just kind of do their own thing and it's almost like a mini genre. It's like its own thing, you know. But even if you want to stick with a certain genre, at least experiment a little bit within your normal routine within that genre. It's kind of like spice things up a little bit. You know, I'm never going to discourage that. Like, if it doesn't sound good, then we'll address that at the moment. But, you know, I, as a producer, I know, Ben, you know, the same thing with you as an engineer, but me as a producer, like, I bounce around from different genres to experiment, like, with my own skill set and what I'm good with or not good with. How am I going to know if I don't try new things? So, yeah, man, this is the year to do it, man. We're not holding back. We're not staying stagnant. We're moving. We're staying moving. We're doing different things. And whatever we do, we're going to try it together. Like me and my artists and me and my clients, when we work together, we're trying new things together. You know, I don't want them to feel like they're vulnerable and like I'm going to have a weird opinion, or vice versa. I don't want to try something new and then them not like it. Like we're doing this together, you know? So
yeah, we're
when
in
you're
this
working
together.
together, it's really, it's an amazing thing when you try new things together.
100%. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Just never be that type of person to shut down an idea. Like I will always say, like, if you have an idea, try it. Like I know usually when I'm recording with all my artists, like they might want to try singing in a different way or try rapping in a different way or trying this or trying that. I'm like, do it. Like literally do it. Like I'm here. Like I can easily delete it. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to go back and add something, but it's just so easy to try and just delete it. So if you don't try, you'll never know. And so I encourage all of you to surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, try different things, because you never know how it's going to sound. And I guarantee you, like, there's going to be so many surprises. I mean, there's so many times where I've tried something new with my artist and it just worked out and it sounded amazing and we just kept it. And that became like a new thing that we do going forward. Right. And so, yeah, I'll always be in a room full with people who are positive, optimistic, and willing to just be creative and not shutting down any ideas or any sense of direction you want to go in. Right. Or at least giving it a shot or giving it a chance, right? And just seeing just what may happen, you know? Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to kind of branch off, because you were saying just about, you know, not staying stagnant this year, because, you know, I do believe that 2024 is going to be an amazing year for music, for an amazing year for connections, an amazing year for just putting out great music, like just all of us together, right? And because of that, you have to also recognize that this shit takes work. I mean, it takes effort, it takes energy, and you're not going to get anywhere within your music unless you put in the work. Yep. And, you know, that work comprises of, you know, putting out content around your music and, you know, networking with a bunch of people, making new connections, trying new things and staying creative within your music, dropping frequently, and actually building your discography and building yourself as an artist so people can fall in love with that. People can fall in love with your personality. People can fall in love with your music. So then you can kind of bring it full circle and continue to grow. And then, you know, eventually do it full time and just live the dream you want to live. But that's not going to come without putting in the work. Right. And I even made a video about this the other day that, like, I don't even think some of the skills you need to acquire is that difficult to learn. I mean, there's so many resources nowadays to learn new skills. Go on YouTube, go on Google, go on ChatGPT, go on these master classes and learn how to shoot video, learn how to edit, learn how to make content. Like, at the end of the day, these skills aren't super difficult to learn. Mm-mm. It's just a matter of taking the time every day to actually learn them and then doing it consistent and willing to put yourself out there. But people don't want to put in the work. And so as much as I would love to sit here and be like, yeah, 2024 is going to be the year for music, which it will be, at least from my perspective and Noah's, you have to be willing to just do something. Like, you have to put in the work. At least put in a little bit of work every day to get one step closer to achieving your dreams. Because it is better to do a little bit of work every day than not do anything for 7 days, than do a lot of work on one day, than not do work for 7 to 14 days. Like, do a little bit every day, just a little bit. Like, just take 1 hour every day, half an hour. That's a good start, because at least you're going to be putting one foot in front of the other to then, you know, do something with your music. And so just be ready to put in the work.
Be consistent, because working hard, if you're not consistent with the hard work, then it's all going to go down the drain, right? So if you're, you know, like, for instance, when I first learned piano, I didn't take a lot of music lessons just because I personally, I don't vibe well sometimes with, at least when I was a kid, I just didn't like the process of sitting down and learning an instrument every day, because I wanted to do my thing. I wanted to play my music. And any artist or producer is going to, like, reconcile with that. Everybody wants to do their own thing. And so, you know, learning is never fun. But when I did take lessons, I remember I didn't really progress with anything. And that went for guitar, piano, whatever it was that I was learning. Nothing progressed forward unless I was sitting down every day and spending time doing it. Just half hour, an hour a day, whatever I had time for. And I still do that now with other things. If I don't put, like as adults, like if we don't put time into the gym or into different things, like we're not going to see progress with anything, eating healthy, whatever it is in our lives, whatever lifestyle you're living, like there's always a need for consistency. And so when it comes to making music, when it comes to working on projects, you can teach yourself, like Ben was saying, you can teach yourself a lot of these things. College, a lot of people will choose to go that route, and that's fine. But for those of us who aren't going to college for what we do for a living, a lot of us are self-taught. I myself have learned a lot of these things just from watching videos, learning from people, asking questions. Like if you are working with a producer or an engineer like Ben, and you have questions about things because you kind of want to learn how to do some of this yourself, whether you want to make a career out of it or you're genuinely just interested, just ask questions and learn, because this is a great opportunity to soak things up. In this day and age, we have information everywhere. And so if we're able to soak all the information up that we possibly can and practice it, like we're not going to get any worse at it. That's for sure. I mean, slowly but surely we're going to get better at what we do, and we'll be confident in it, So yeah, definitely be consistent, but also just be ready to learn, little by little. It's a long process. It takes a minute, but if you can kind of just stick with it, I feel like that's why a lot of people give up, is because they just weren't consistent with it. It's not because it was actually that hard. Like, yes, it's difficult, but if you're consistent with it, you'll stick through the difficult times, So it kind of sucks to see people giving up. I've seen some people give up because they were in a difficult moment, whether it was the project wasn't working out or they just got burnt out, something like that. But they were never really consistent with it to begin with. So when the tough times came around, they weren't able to roll with the punches because they weren't practicing every day. They weren't in it every day. It was just kind of a once in a while thing, So yeah, definitely stay consistent and definitely be open to learning things every day. And learning new things is just part of being consistent, because you're doing that every day, whether you're actually practicing it, you're learning it, you're listening to it, you're watching, you're asking questions. Just stay in it, stay in the game, and just always be involved in that, and you'll get better at it,
It's all about that growth mindset. I mean, for as long as you have that growth mindset and you're willing to learn and get better, you're gonna get better. Like, it's just inevitable. I mean, it takes time. I mean,
you do gotta want it, that's for sure. But
yeah, like you're gonna learn, like Noah said, way more through experience than school will ever teach you. I mean, when you're practically doing something in real life on a regular basis, day after day, you're going to learn a thing or two about that craft, and you're going to get better at it over time. And if you can even educate yourself even more by watching YouTube videos, asking questions, you're going to become proficient at the craft. You just have to keep at it over time. For example, for myself, I never had any formal education in music. And by formal education, I mean like any institute like college or university. I don't. I took a 3-day workshop at Abstract Studios. Shout out to Abstract Studios, to Mega and Ante. I took a 3-day workshop there, learned the fundamentals of engineering, and I never looked back. And that's all I've been doing ever since. Every day, reaching out to people, working on music. And, almost 3 years later, I've become proficient enough and good enough at it just through my own experience of just trial and error, doing it over and over again, educating myself, where now I get to charge for my work and put out high quality stuff. And it just shows you, the more you do something, the better you'll get at it. It's inevitable. It's like that saying, you got to put in your 10,000 hours, which, I mean, I don't know.
Very true.
I'm sure after 1,000 hours, you'll probably become proficient enough at it, per 1,000 concentrated hours. But the point being is, consistency will always lead to growth most of the time if you're doing the right things, and you have that willingness to grow and a willingness to just get better, All right. Yeah, no, that's perfect. This is another thing I want to address, because this is actually, I guess, tied to this in terms of the willingness to grow and progress. And this is a saying that I came up with. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has ever said it, but I'm coining the term right now. You got to be selfish short term to be long term selfless. And I'm gonna really expand on this in a second here, but that just means that you have to be selfish in the moment and focus on your growth in order to be selfless near the end. Noah, what do you think about that saying?
I'm gonna let you take that one away, man. I want to see what you got to say about this.
All right, bet. So, in terms of being selfish, yes, it is good to be selfless in the sense of like having that team mentality to then give people opportunity to help you along the journey. But I know there's a lot of people that I think they get distracted by others in a willingness to help everybody and willingness to do things for everybody all the time, whenever. And they don't just lock in and focus on their goal, because you have to be able to make the music you want to make, put in the time, effort, and energy to make it happen, and to put in that consistent work just to be on your grind, basically, right? And to say no to people trying to pull you away from that journey, whether it be your parents, your friends, anybody that's trying to take you away from the zone that you're in, the direction you're going down, so then you can just lock in. And you have to be selfish, because not a lot of people will understand your vision or the direction or the dream you're trying to achieve. And that's why you have to say, screw all of them for now. Do what you got to do, lock in, so then you can make this thing happen. So then once you have some sort of success, you can give back and be selfless to the ones around you, so then they can benefit from it. Because if you aren't successful in achieving a certain amount of monetary wealth or status or your dream, and if you're not happy, the people around you will not feel that from you. And so in order for you to be where you need to be, you got to lock in and be selfish. And so that's kind of how I look at it. So got to be selfless to be, be selfish to be selfless.
Yeah, exactly. We have limited resources when we were first starting out, or if we've only been doing it for a few years. So if you are stretching yourself out thin, then you can expect to be burnt out. You can expect to be losing at the game, because you're giving too much of everything you have and you are away to other people and other projects. So it's, everybody's different. I personally, I don't mind, and I know you're the same way, Ben. Like, I don't mind going the extra mile for people that really, like, if the project's really worth it and that client is just really going out of their way to be nice, like, I'll do the same. I usually try to do that to begin with, but especially if they're reciprocating that, like, I'll just give it right back to them. Like, hey man, like, we're working together on this. Like, try to be selfless as much as we can. But I think what Ben's saying is short-term selfish is, I agree with what you're saying, is you kind of have to have that mindset of not selfish in a rude way, but selfish in a self-aware kind of, okay, how much do I have? How much am I giving out to other people? Not even just financially, but more of like your skill set, your time, your resources, So if you're working on a project with someone, then you don't have the time to work on that, but you're giving them your time when you should be doing your own things, you're not going to have time for your own things. So you're not going to get better. You're not going to have time to accomplish your goals. Like Ben was saying, you need to have goals. So if you're not giving yourself the time that you need, then you're not going to be, like we were saying earlier, you're not going to be able to be consistent and have that growth mindset, because you're going to be stretching yourself out way too thin. And, you'll have time for that later, once you have grown to the point where the goals that you were setting out to accomplish have been accomplished, and your goals are way bigger now and more long-term instead of short-term. You can then put your hand in different pots, and it's always better to have two in the hand instead of one in the bush. Like, always have, one in the hand instead of two in the bush. It's easy to hold on to what you already have as opposed to going after something else. So put all your eggs, if you can, in one basket when you start out, so that you're not spread too thin.
And I think you kind of have to. And obviously, I think you definitely took definitely an interesting direction with this quote. And so for me, it's more so like external distractions that pull you away. I think, yes, you should definitely be selfless when it comes to, obviously the relationships you build with artists or just your clients or the networking opportunities. Sure. Like, when it comes to the work you do for others within the craft that you're doing, for sure, be selfless. Like you said, like, be willing to give more energy, time, effort to make it amazing, but also be cognizant of where you stand with your projects, what's important, and what you're willing to do. So obviously that's within the music, and then, be selfish when it comes to your dream and your goal, to not let anybody deter you away from that.
Right. You have to have a winning mindset when it comes to business too. Not even just music, but any kind of business. You got to have the mindset of, gotta have that dog in you. You got to be ready to just go get it, and you can't go get everybody else's thing if you're not going and getting your own thing. So you got to start with what you got before you expand.
Of course, and you got to just dream big. So then if you can dream big and have this great vision, of course, you always want to have a goal that's maybe slightly out of reach, and then obviously you have your more reachable goals that you can achieve along the way, right? Like, and unreachable can be like you just want to be as big as the Super Bowl, you know, and just kill it and just be out there performing and doing your thing. Exactly, for all the dogs. And so, yeah, be selfish when it comes to your craft and your dream and your vision to achieve the thing you want to do within your craft, and then lock in and do it and just kill it and put all your eggs in that one basket for now, because you have no other option. Like all
only
this
got
right
one
now,
basket.
yeah, literally when you're growing and you're trying to make, you know, your money, or trying to make your connections, or trying to get good at and good and proficient at your skill, you have to put all your eggs in one basket. You have to focus all your time, energy, and just to grow, make those connections, keep on killing it, so then you can branch out, like you said. And so, yeah, I mean, there is no plan B. You know, like it's plan A is plan A, and you make it happen. You know what I mean? And you find a way to make it happen if it's really something you want to do. And so, yeah, absolutely.
I think real quick, I was gonna make one more point.
Please.
Yeah. So distinguishing between long-term and short-term goals, you know, and this is something I'm still learning, is when you're starting a business or you're learning a craft or something, when you're doing your thing, you know, whatever that is for you, you have long-term goals, which are going to get you to where you know, from point A to point B. And then you have short-term goals, which are going to kind of determine what point A and point B are. They're kind of defining exactly where you need to go in that moment. And so, you know, everybody knows what their goals are. And so it'd be too much to try to get into exactly what that should be for you, because you should know that. I know what mine are, Ben, you know what yours are. And it's cool to explore those together sometimes. Like if there's a client and a producer that are working together closely a lot, or in this case, me as a producer and Ben as an engineer, we work together all the time. And so we do have our short term and our long term, but it's easy to get those confused sometimes. And that kind of ties into what we were saying earlier. If you're always going for your long-term goals and you don't really know what your short-term are, you will be spreading yourself out thin and you're going to burn out fast. So definitely focus on short-term goals just as much as the long-term. Figure out what you got to do in the moment to get where you got to go later.
Yeah. Because all these little short-term goals it's going to lead up to the big goal, right? Because it's like you have your big goal and it's like, okay, cool. What do I have to do every single day in order to get there? And now those are your micro goals and the micro milestones that you're going to achieve along the way. And don't be afraid to celebrate your little achievements. Like there's nothing wrong with, you know, just being able to celebrate your successes along the way, because it's the journey that's the most fulfilling part about all of this. And so enjoy it. Make those connections. Have a good time. Celebrate these little things on your way to the top, you know?
It's always great to have people that share similar goals too. Like if you guys both have the same long-term goal of setting up a studio, or let's say your long-term goal was in 6 months, you're going to release an EP. Okay, well, you may have different short-term goals, but if you have similar long-term goals, you're going to work great together, because you each have your own processes, but the end game is similar, at least for that project or that year. You know, you guys want to try to go in the same direction. So that's always cool too, meeting people that have similar like long-term goals, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And you just have to keep on killing it. Yep. Anyways, y'all, appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're going to leave it there, because that should definitely give us enough content for you guys to enjoy, and for us to then post-produce to post on Instagram so you guys can enjoy that as well. As always, it's all love, guys. This is just an opportunity for us to document our journey within music, and just us coming up in this game together, and just seeing us grow and sharing our wonderful experiences with you guys, because hey, music is abstract and you never know what's going to happen. So, yeah, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. No, I appreciate you, brother.
All love, man.
Any final words you want to say?
All love, man. Yeah, bro. We got some good things coming up this year. And all y'all stay encouraged, stay in tune. You know, me and Ben are going to have some cool things coming up in 2024 as well. And so we're rooting y'all on. We're cheering for y'all. It's going to be some good things coming up, man.
All right. All love. Easy, y'all.
All love. Easy.